Welcome back. I'm Austin Westfall. The Taliban celebrated their third anniversary of their return to power Wednesday at a former U.S. air base in Afghanistan. But the AP says there was no mention of the country's hardships or promises to help the struggling population. Also of note, as you see, lots of U.S. military equipment was seen parading through the streets. I want to discuss with retired Marine Intelligence Officer Hal Kemper. As always, Hal, it's good to see you. This one, I know there's been a lot of reaction to this. Your initial reaction to seeing this parade?
Oh, it's very frustrating. I mean, you're looking at a lot of U.S. trucks. I saw some MRAPs, which is a kind of an armored. It's a wheeled armored vehicle that really was for IEDs and mines that we developed, mostly in Iraq, but it was also some were deployed up into Afghanistan. But you're looking at a lot of U.S. equipment. Now, one thing I do want to point out: those are not U.S. helicopters. I know you see them. Some are old Soviet helicopters, but they're not U.S. One of the things that when the U.S. left, it basically disabled all the aircraft. And when I say disabled, I mean did things to them where they can't get fixed, sort of disabled. And so that was one thing we did not let the Taliban get was aircraft. I'm not saying they may have scrounge parts or whatever and put maybe a Black Hawk or something in the air, but they don't really have much of that way. So now, one of the things you're looking at, and this is an issue with the Afghan National Army, they were dependent on U.S. contractors to keep all that equipment running. So even though they inherited $7 billion worth of equipment, which is just, I mean, that just still sits on my shoulder. I mean, when I think about this sheer amount of equipment that we left there, it's horrible. Even though we left that, they have a tough time, just like the Afghan national government did, of keeping that stuff going. And without those U.S. contractors there, they lack the expertise. They don't have the spare parts. They don't have an ability to get the spare parts. So what you see rolling there, one of my first thoughts was that may be all of everything we left. That could be the only stuff that's still operating. And that may be about as fast as some of those things could probably drive too. So it's not a silver lining, but it is something to consider. And that's Bagram Air Force Base, by the way. That was our main base in Afghanistan.
For those that need a little bit of catch up, why do they have this equipment?
And when we left and when we pulled out finally in August of 2021, the Taliban just swept over the country much faster than anybody thought. They overran Afghan national units, the Afghan national government, which we thought would last much longer. I don't think we ever thought they were going to last forever, but we thought that they would be able to stay in place much longer. Literally just fell apart. The president took off, the government disappeared. The Afghan National Army basically was overrun, surrendered, and with that, they surrendered all the equipment, all the arms they have. One of the things they do have is a tremendous, which you don't see displayed so much on parade, is a tremendous amount of small arms. They have M4s, M16s, larger machine guns, a lot of small arms. And one of the things that they've done over the last few years is the Taliban government has become something of an arms broker. They have actually been selling these arms to various different groups. There are rebel groups in the Kashmir region fighting the Indian Army, and they have been buying arms, transferred probably through the, well, they could be transferred direct, but probably through the Pakistani Taliban. They've been getting U.S. weapons and basically taking them over to fight that war. So a lot of these weapons have gone that way. Now, what an interesting thing is some of those Soviet helicopters were actually in Ukraine being maintained. They're actually being overhauled when the government fell. And so they had all these, they had, I don't know, it was about 7 or 8, I think, total. I think 5 were fully operational that were sitting in Ukraine. And the question is, what are, Ukraine's, well, what are we going to do with these? And the U.S. was kind of behind the whole maintenance thing and everything. And they said, well, just hold on to them. And they were eventually transferred over to the Ukrainians. And those helicopters have been used to fight the Russians.
Why couldn't these vehicles, why couldn't they have been taken when the U.S. pulled out?
They're heavy vehicles. And it really, you got to look at the geography. It was tough getting them in there, and it was really tough getting them out. And by the way, if we pulled all those vehicles out, the government would have fallen that much faster. If we had said, hey, Afghan army, give us all your vehicles, everything else, because we know you don't stand a chance and you're going to get wiped out by the Taliban, uh, we would have been, things were bad. It would have been much worse if we tried to do that. So we left these vehicles there. But the sad part is that they fell into the hands of the Taliban. One of the really sad parts is they got a lot of things that you don't see on parade, like night vision goggles. They inherited a lot of night vision capability, and that's been causing havoc in Pakistan, where some of the radical, like the Pakistani Taliban groups and other violent extremist groups over there, pose a major threat to the Pakistan military and Pakistan police. And in some of those towns and villages, their frustration is, look, they have night vision equipment. They see in the night. We don't have that equipment. We can't see. And it's causing a lot of instability in certain parts of Pakistan because of the equipment that has migrated over from Afghanistan that we left behind.
No country officially recognizes the Taliban as the government of Afghanistan, but there's really no other way to look at it, Al, correct?
It's the de facto. De jure, no country recognizes the Taliban government, which is really kind of surprising when you look at just where the world is today. I mean, the world is basically broken out into some very strong factions. You know, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. You would kind of expect that one of them would break ranks and recognize them, and we have not seen that. Now, what we have seen is forays by, or at least reported forays by the representatives in there to try and develop some sort of relationship, do business in Afghanistan, use it as a base of operations. China comes up in that discussion quite a bit. But with that, it's a completely dysfunctional government. It's a dysfunctional society. It is a moribund economy. And even though it's frustrating to see these vehicles rolling down the tarmac at Bagram Air Base, where we were for so many years, one thing I will say, because of the maintenance cycle, next year there'll be fewer of them rolling down the tarmac, and the year after that there'll be fewer still, because they are maintenance intensive vehicles, and frankly, probably the only reason they're running is because they haven't been using them much. That would be my thought.
All right, Hal, we'll leave it there for now. As